why do we still have issues of human rights violation daily skyrocketing, despite the outcry by quite a number of civil society organizations, including Amnesty International and also other well-meaning Nigerians? Why do we have this issue daily skyrocketing?
I think the problem we have is the system. We do not really have the structure to, we have the laws, but we do not really have the structures to watch the actions of the officers who enforce these laws. Okay, so that is the problem we have in life. And in most cases, we notice that even when individuals go to court, the damages awarded to them are not actually not compared to the infringement itself. So the system itself, the enforcement of this law in the system is poor. That's why we keep having these things. And in most cases, we have the officers being shielded by the system. That's why some persons keep being. That's the problem we have.
We have an instance of such human rights violation, such as the parade of suspects by the Nigerian police in public, leaving them to public ridicule. Some would say they are called suspects. So, in other words, they shouldn't be paraded until proven guilty by a competent court of law. All right. How would you react to that as one such instance of human rights violation?
All right. So the situation is generally some of these persons in our criminal procedure laws and the written what we have and the criminal justice law. These persons are suspects. And yes, the law, if you look at the law, you understand that these persons are not to be ordinarily paraded and maybe you see a situation where journalists ask some question, damaging question, and trying to pass judgment. It is not a law. You can see this in sometimes the police, sometimes they do it, sometimes PSs they do it, and some other civil napkin and all that. But it's not the law. I think I remember in Redress case, I think this was there is a law mandating that after the case of Chidinma that happened in Lagos, where the issue of parading subjects, suspects, before the public was, I think, is back in Lagos. It's not currently back in Lagos. But the truth is that when you parade suspects that way, there are in some cases it may affect the investigation. So at that particular point, you need to conduct your investigation and come up with your findings and possibly try to prosecute. But when you do some of these things, you find out that the some persons or some evidence you may get in course of arrest or after the arrest may be destroyed because these things are now before the public and at that point those persons may try to destroy this evidence, and when these things are destroyed you may not be able to prove their case, and this is where you have issues of some persons are taken to court and they're not able to prove their case because investigation continues after arrest, and you don't do something that will translate the investigation by presenting persons to the public. Even person that committed the offense with the person may at that point escape, or may leave town to avoid prosecution. So I think one is infringement on his part, on the suspect's rights, and secondly, it does not help matters, does not help investigation after the arrest. Yeah, it is.
All right. Sometime this year, there's a report actually came out, and that's the Freedom in the World 2022 report, which had it that Nigeria is just partly free, scoring the country 43 out of 100 points in its ranking in its ranking index, and also Nigeria was scored 20 out of 40 points in political rights and 23 out of 60 points in civil liberty. Now, how do you think that we can better our ranking or rating in our subsequent ranking by these international bodies?
I think what we need to do, we need to look inwards, and we know where the problems are. We need to work on the problems. Within the justice sector, okay, if we talk about justice, justice sector is not a one-way traffic, not a two-way, it's a three. In the case of Josiah and State, Peter said, before Peter said that it's not a one-way or two-way, it's a three-way traffic. Justice for the suspect, for the defendant, and for the state. And if you look at justice holistically, you understand that you have stakeholders in this justice ecosystem. So the stakeholders should ensure that the proper things are done within the system, and the laws itself. We don't really need to straighten the laws, but we need to give life to most of these laws. Because if that is for this, but when you go to court, the judge should look at the infringement and give proper damages, give suitable damages to, not giving. Sometimes you see where damages of 50,000 naira, 50,000 naira is awarded against the most times the police, and because of hiring a lawyer alone, it's worth more than most times 500,000. So when you give damages of 20,000 in favor of the applicant in court, that's the person whose rights has been infringed. After that, other persons may not want to, try to enforce their rights. So that's where the problem is. And secondly, the police as well, the internal mechanism of police as to sanction and punishment of any officers should be open. They should be sincere in doing some of these things in punishing any officer. It shouldn't be a situation where we try to shield their own, The commissioner of police should, in some cases where issues are reported, should take steps to investigate these things and come up with findings, not relying on what their men told them in the office, Because we have cases where sometimes they report to them, tell them lies, and they come to the world, come out and say different things. And when you investigate for that, you find out that they are saying a different thing. So the system itself, the justice sector itself, the stakeholders itself, the stakeholders should come together and ensure that persons, the defendant, the suspect, and the state get justice at the end of the day. So when we focus on justice, means that it's a three-way traffic. We will improve the delivery itself, because the public are the consumers of the product of justice we have. So when they see there is fairness in what you are giving, and when they see there is transparency in procedure, in course of getting this justice. Yeah, that is the position.
Right, just in your explanation, you touched on justice reform, and in a way as well, you talked about police reform. And if we look at it very well, you would agree with me that most of the complaints that we have seen or heard from the general public have always been against the Nigerian police or against the security apparatus or the security system in the country. Now, beyond reform, now, or even if we have to talk about the reform, what do you think would be the reform? What would you think? What do you think would be the structure of the reform? Because it's also cost so much to actually hire a lawyer. Is it just around that alone, or necessary punishment should also be given to whoever had?
Yeah, when we talk about necessary punishment, it's a civil matter. Fundamental rights matters are civil matters. So
Yeah.
you see they are parts of their own, but they are civil matters. So the punishment, I don't really, the punishment most times that we know are criminal matters, but it does not stop the court from recommending other punishments, to method. Maybe court can recommend that the person, the respondent in that matter should be sacked, should be dismissed from the force. The court can do that. And I noticed that in some cases, the court can take further steps in ensuring that the erring officer should pay the money from his or her pocket. Most times you have the force, that's the police, Nigeria police force, paying the money from police account sometimes when you can issue the account. But if you start making it that the person, that the erring officer should pay the money from his pocket, and you award 20 million against the person. So when the person wants to commit the offense, the person will look at it That's I'm about to pay 10 million, 20 million, which my salary in the next 20 years may not cover, next 10 years may not cover. The person will advise himself. Another thing we should look at, the part of the reform should be on having a special court for fundamental rights enforcement. Although in the FREP Rule 2019, fundamental rights enforcement in 2009, it provides that you should be given accelerated hearing. Provide for it, but if you have a special court that is on human rights, it is on human rights. But most times, even when you have this, you should be given accelerated hearing in court, you find out that other matters may affect it. You may not get the judgment you need within a short time. Other matters may affect, and the judge cannot do more than he or she could do. So it affects. But if you have a court for fundamental rights enforcement, for fundamental rights enforcement, it will go a long way in giving the judgment delivery, the quality of judgment to be delivered, the time in which it will be delivered, and in most cases, their words, it could influence their words. Yeah, because once you have the court, there could be rules on how damages could be awarded. When you have a special panel of special court, there could be rule on how, if it's maybe somebody was brutalized, when involved 2 or 3 police officers, it should be 10 million, something like that. You have a range that the court will look at it as a guide in awarding it. Yes, that's another thing. The second part of it is people should know their rights. When we talk about reform, we cannot have a reform where people don't know their rights. Nothing stops you from reading the Nigerian Constitution and look at chapter 4 of the Constitution and read through. Under chapter 4 of the Constitution, you have all the rights taken there. Constitution is the ground norm. All the other laws derive life from Constitution. So when you read chapter 4 Constitution, you have the rights seated there. Recently, you have a judgment where somebody went to court to enforce freedom of religion, the one that's causing issue presently. It's about a lady, a girl that went to school with hijab and she was stopped, and the parents tried to enforce her rights. We got to Supreme Court and court said, yes, she can. She can wear it to school. So when you understand you have this right, when you know you have rights, that's when you know it has been infringed. If it happens, when you understand this right, you'll be able to enforce them and ensure that you get the best out of them. But when you don't know them, like Nigerians, we always refer to God.
Yeah. All right, Dan, you have just spoken about, of course, it's one of the most interesting things you have just talked about. I mean, the hearing officer should be able to pay from his pocket anytime he or she commits any offense, which is a good one. I hope that can actually help to mitigate the effect of such violation. All right, I think before we draw the curtain on this discussion, I wanted to ask just this one last question. You talked about knowing your rights, and some persons, you would agree with me, actually know their right, but oftentimes they may not know how to seek redress, yes, in a court of law. Some do not even know how to approach the court. That's for those who know their rights. Some do not even know, and you have actually encouraged Nigerians to go ahead and read a section of the Constitution so as to know their rights. But how do you think that someone can actually seek redress in a court of law? Because I know quite all right that there are civil society organizations that actually do what we call pro bono, right? Where free services, right? But in a case where you may not have access to such service, how do you seek redress in a court of law?
Generally, first thing, you need to get a lawyer. Read chapter 4, know your right. Get a lawyer. It's very important. When you get a lawyer, the second thing you will do, the lawyer will help you to fight fundamental rights. The lawyer will assess it and fight fundamental rights on your behalf. Under the fundamental rights, provide that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So under fundamental rights, provide that there is no limitation to bring an action for fundamental rights. That means even if it happened 10 years ago, or 3 years ago, you can always bring an action to court once you be able to adduce evidence to prove your case. And there is a explanatory hearing given to it. So first, engage a lawyer. The lawyer will take care of it, file the fundamental rights. Or if you want to do it yourself, some persons may want to know that there is what we call fundamental right enforcement tool, where you can enforce, file in court, ensure that your right is enforced. And there are other ones under the ACJL, like in Lagos State, they have the ACJL, Administration of Criminal Justice Law. Abuja, they have the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Other states is law. Abuja is act because it's in federal capital. Under section 159 of the act, it provides that when somebody is arrested and detained more than 24 hours, you can go to court. The person can go to court and apply to the court for the person to be reproduced. And when the person is reproduced, court can grant bail. This is one. Because most time when you find fundamental right, it takes time for court to hear it. So if somebody is detained beyond what is provided in the Constitution, you can do this. Under this Police Act, Section 64, provide that when somebody is detained more than 24 hours, you can go to court, make an oral application, court will make an order for the person to be reproduced, and court will grant bail where necessary. So these are the provisions that you have. And as well, when somebody is arrested, you can, there is what the police unit, the PCRU, Police Complaint Response Unit. You can, for immediate solution to issues or maybe immediate intervention to issues, you can call them. They are, I think on Twitter, they have about 185 followers, 1,000 followers. You contact them, they can take up a matter. There was a matter happened in Lagos. A lawyer was arrested, was beaten and arrested. He contacted the PCRU, I think, almost or so, contacted them, and they called the officers and they were able to release the lawyer, and there is no issue. That does not stop the lawyer from filing fundamental rights.
Yeah.
So that does not stop any other person from filing fundamental rights. What is important at that particular time is you getting your freedom. So these internal mechanisms are there for you to utilize it to get your freedom and go ahead and file your fundamental rights. So under the ACJL, you can activate ACJL, and you must know as well that if you are arrested in lieu in place of another person, you can file fundamental rights. If it's emanating from contracts, you can file fundamental rights. And when you know all these things, and you know that there are internal mechanisms of police that you can activate, when you utilize that and get your freedom immediately, you can go ahead and file fundamental rights when you are settled. Because you cannot be in detention and file. In most cases, police will force you to withdraw the fundamental rights and maybe settle with them. But when you settle with them first, you can go ahead and file fundamental rights and ensure that your rights is enforced and you get proper damages as to the harm caused. Yeah. So that's what people need to do within this system.
Okay, just in your last statement, you mentioned there, and that's actually I think it's actually a red flag on the part of the Nigerian police, where they have to force you to withdraw your rights. Of course, even you as a victim, you might want to do that, hoping that as soon as you are released, you go out there and fight for your rights. So I think we're drawing up the curtain now. I want to thank you, Barrister Emmanuel, for this short time. Sorry, I had to take you out of the court to speak with you. All right, I'll keep in touch, and I hope that when next I call you, you'll be available. Thank you so much. I wish you the best of the day, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thank you. I will always be here to give solutions to some of the issues. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.